I just wanted you to know that you're my sister and that you are just as good as a white mom.
You know, I hate that kind of remark. It sounds like a compliment, but really it's an insult.
Hello, friends. Trace amounts of science. We are back with the saga of Tumblrina today. Don't send your kids to daycare, as I think they call it. If you missed the previous parts, those links in the description. I do suggest you watch them since OP doesn't really want to do a recap type of thing, which I think is cool. Far too many cast lists and all that bullshit on Reddit. Like the first 10 minutes of the video. This was just like bing, bang, boom. So I'm going to try and follow that mode, and bing, bang, boom, we'll get right into it. Thanks for being here today, though. Don't send your kids to daycare for. Sleeping Beauty is almost functional. Yeah, we take those. Welcome back, user. It's not gay, it's science. So, during the third part's narration, ReddX asked what was meant when I said most men aren't compatible with someone like me. I guess that blurb was a bit of self-pity, working its way back into my thinking. I'm not sensitive about it, and I'm fine with sharing. I've been infertile since birth, and my personality can be abrasive to most people I meet. The fun doesn't stop there, though. Around 3 years ago, I was hit by a drunk driver and needed my right leg amputated below the knee. Jeez. I have a prosthesis, and most people can't tell, but I've avoided getting close to people because my biggest fear is the one that I share with all of humanity: rejection. Oh, that's terrible. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's compatible. It's on you whether or not you want to pursue that. Like, the missing a leg thing, some dudes are into that. They're called stump worshippers, okay? Look it up. Not that you want to be treated like just for that, but I don't know, if you find one of those weird dudes that you really connect with, I don't think I'm helping here, am I? Regarding the infertile, I mean, lots of child-free people. And abrasive, I mean, me too. I think your abrasiveness is enjoyable. It's a neat characteristic because I also share it. So there's somebody else out there that shares it. Come on. He probably also doesn't want kids. He's probably also into stumps. It's your one. You just haven't found them yet. Are you looking? Because probably if it's something you want, then you should look. But I do know rejection is a big thing. But if you go and do it enough, then you sort of develop scar tissue over it. It don't hurt as bad the 10,000th time, you know? I don't know. It's a completely male perspective, honestly. Probably there are some women watching the video that could leave some encouragement for OP in the comments. Please and thank you. This isn't going to turn into a diary entry because I've accepted things as they are. No, it's as you perceive them to be. Like, you are smart and perceptive, OP, but I don't think you got it 100% on lock, okay? None of us can know what the future holds. Like I've said before, we all have our struggles, and this is my personal cross to bear. Neither of these things really come up in the story, but since you asked, there it is. Well, I'm glad I asked, honestly. Probably made myself look like an ass trying to, soothe the situation. But it adds some depth, I do want to know some strange things about you. I can tell you some strange things about me. I've already told thousands of strangers on the internet. It's fine. Anyways, we will move into the story now. Now that I've got plenty of pitying glances headed my way, it's time for a topic shift. I sort of understand that, but it's not a pitying glance, okay? It's encouraging. It's you can do it. It's nudging the baby bird out of the nest. You're smart enough. You're ready to fly. You can handle some rejection. Although I do suspect that's much harder for women than men. They're just not as practiced, Anyway, with all that said, we will move into part 4 of this tale. There is no cast list or recap of past events. Just try to keep up. Yeah, keep up with that one-legged lady. I'm sorry, I'm not I'm not gonna bring it up anymore. Wednesday was reassuring for me. I woke up and thought about the fact that after today, we'd be over halfway to never seeing Tumblrina again. Yes, precious hump day. That simple fact was enough to keep a smile on my face all the way to work. I entered my morning routine and began to hatch a plan for how I could demonstrate for my boss the level of derangement that was being allowed here this week. Yeah, I think OP would have sacked her after day 1, right? Really, if Big Boss had any brains, you'd, defer to the boots on the ground anyway. Yeah, okay, you say she sucks, she probably does. You know what goes on there. I'll stick another ad on Craigslist or wherever the hell you found this freak. Phone video seemed like it would be the best bet in demonstrating Tumblrina's derangement. The question here wasn't whether or not I could get her to spiral out of control. The question was, would she spiral hard enough to not notice that her actions were being recorded for posterity? I don't know, man. She seems pretty self-absorbed. She's not looking at anything else that's going on. Tumblrina, yeah, OP says as much. Tumblrina didn't seem like the most self-aware person. It'd probably be fine, and if it wasn't, what's the worst that could happen? She hits me with her extremely padded fat fist. It's like a pillow. I was pulled from my thoughts by a knock on the door. Speak of the devil. Literally. I swung the door open with a wry grin on my face and greeted the hippo lady, who was dressed in fresh, oversized, but still cigarette-burned, Speedy Gonzales t-shirt. Oh, see, she changes her clothes on the third day. That's normal and fine. She seemed to be in a good mood as she returned my hello and bounced her way into the daycare. Well, you seem like you're in a much better mood than yesterday, I started cautiously. I took my boyfriend back last night. We stayed up talking until morning, she practically squealed. At this point, I'm wondering how and why, and is he blind or just stupid? But I didn't say any of that, of course. No reason to goad her to start spinning out of control this early on. I'd need to try and wait on that until backup had finally arrived. Yeah, the best laid plans of mice and men, eh? I don't think backup's gonna make it. He's not made it anytime so far. The shenanigans start before lunch every single day. At least the past 2 days. There's a pattern here.
I'm beginning to see a pattern here that I'm not so sure if I like.
OP says, yeah, I'm glad you patched things up. Did you get any sleep, though? This job can be a lot harder when your brain is frazzled from a lack of sleep, I said. OP, you should know by now that I'm a total workhorse. I could go for a week without sleep. If I start to get drowsy, I just have a little smoke and I'm back to work just as hard as before, she proclaimed. You really do see the world differently than other people, don't you? A brief exhalation of air from my nose almost turned into a legitimate laugh. She wasn't a workhorse. She ate like a horse. She was the size of a horse, but work? I didn't think that was even in her vocabulary. She does eat like a horse wouldn't eat 40 boxes of cookies. Even a horse fucking knows better.
I've got to stop eating so much. No, I've got to stop eating. Period.
You ever feed a horse like way too many apples? They stop after a certain point. Like, I like a sweet taste, but this is cloying now. I'm gonna go enjoy some hay. Tumblrina don't do that. OP continues, I will concede that she does work just as hard as before after having a cigarette. Unfortunately, 0 times anything is still 0. I composed myself and nodded. You know what you're capable of. That is the most political answer I think I've ever heard. Our little heart-to-heart didn't last for long because the parents started to arrive for drop-off. What happened next shocked me to my core. Tumblrina stepped up and signed the kid in. And she did it properly. She had somehow absorbed her training. I mean, she didn't train on Monday because she's eating cookies, right? And then I think for a lot of Tuesdays she stood around, and yeah, she did absorb it. This mud pie has some sort of learning capability. OP says, granted, most people would be able to do this on day 1, but for her to take the initiative, I was fucking flabbergasted. This was not the blue-haired pig dog that I had grown to loathe. Were we dealing with some sort of pod people situation? Somebody cut in some theremin music.
What is that thing? It's hideous and weird.
Don't be a hater, dear. It's a theremin.
Ooh, spooky pod people. If only it were that easy, you know. I'd give her the pod people in a second. I don't care what changes are made. She'll be better afterwards. She can't get any worse. The morning check-ins did go by remarkably smooth. After inspecting her work, I let her continue flying solo. This was an amazing development that I couldn't explain. Getting back with her supposed boyfriend had caused all of this. Yeah, she can't breathe without her boyfriend, but she's a staunch feminist who don't need no man. And don't you forget it.
Men, we don't know what we did.
Her head is so full of inconsistency, she can't even keep track of them. Tumblrina is so morbidly fascinating to me. Tumblrina was acting normal even while running on no sleep. I mean, it's not later. You wait till it gets later in the day. She's not going to make it till 2 p.m. You kidding? Staying up all night? Did you sleep at any point? Like a little nap? OP says, I started to believe that she'd actually turned over a new leaf. Maybe she did want this job. Maybe things would turn out all right. Had I misjudged her? She might have had a bad couple of days. I worked with the kids and crafted a boatload of excuses for her past behavior. I was ready to move forward amicably if Tumblrina was able to do so. Unfortunately, the good times never last. Yeah, it seems they go by faster than the bad times, too. It's kind of fucked up. My ears perked up as voices slowly started to raise at the desk that we use for check-ins. You are not allowed to speak to me that way. What gives you the right? Uh-oh. It was one of the moms who we'll call Terminus. What an ominous name for a mother. I've learned that casually speaking to Terminus only leads to problems. My strategy is to keep things completely professional, so she couldn't find anything to dig her nails into. Terminus was imposing. A large black woman with dyed red hair. Essentially, if you inverted all color on Tumblrina, then you would have Terminus. Different personalities inside, thankfully. Then again, maybe not. What do you mean, like, dig her nails into? She's a Karen? And also, I think this is confirmation that Tumblrina is indeed white, since somebody in the comments was asking. Now, these two color-inverted Titan twins were on a direct collision course. Did I dare to put myself in the middle? There wasn't really any choice. I excused myself from the kids and headed to the would-be battleground. I'm an ally. We both have our struggles out here in the streets. I just wanted you to know that you're my sister and that you are just as good as a white mom.
You know, I hate that kind of remark. It sounds like a compliment, but really it's an insult.
Gosh, thanks so much. What the fuck? Terminus was about a millisecond away from terminating Tumblrina. I could see it on her face, but I got there before any hands were thrown and asked Terminus to step outside with me while Tumblrina completed the check-in. Step outside? Are you guys gonna fight right now? I started by apologizing profusely, and then I asked for her side of the story. I foreshadowed this before, but yeah, they were talking about motherhood when Tumblrina decided to drag race into the conversation. Just for no reason. I apologized even more and tried to make more excuses for Tumblrina, which I really hated to do because there is truly no excuse for her or her behavior. After some time, Terminus was calmed down enough to ask for the number of Big Boss. Oh boy. Heads are going to roll. They don't call her Terminus for no reason. Nobody calls her that to her face. I happily gave it to her and suggested that she file her complaint in great detail as soon as possible. She said she would, and left without further incident. I only hoped that something would come of it. Sometimes the enemy of your enemy can be your friend. Yeah, who said that? Sun Tzu? Is that the art of war? Another one that really applies to all these stories is never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. Just let Tumblrina spin out of control. It's fine. We get the video footage. So with one crisis averted, I walked in to face down another one. And I thought this would be a nice morning for once. But the moment I opened the door, I heard Petey shriek, I want to play Legos! Barbies are for girls! Oh, God. I saw Tumblrina chasing him around, screaming that gender is a social construct! That kid has no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You realize that? This is the only way that she could ever recruit anybody to her side. You gotta get them before their prefrontal cortex hardens up. Get them in deep enough that they can't leave without some deep regret. Anywho, OP does what needs to be done and says she leapt into action. My first worry was that she might fall on the boy and pancake him. But I was also livid that she would try and dictate how other people spend their time. Yeah, especially a child. What? What? Also, the pancake thing. Was that Moby Vic pancaked once upon a time? I think it was a gerbil or a hamster. But crushing a literal child, yeah. You gotta do some time now, Tumblrina. OP says, she hadn't changed at all. Gasp. No, really? People don't change overnight? That's so weird. There was a thin veneer of civility that was clearly only set up as a defense against the slide that she broke yesterday. That meant that there was guilt there, but that still didn't humanize her to me. It only made me berate myself for ever buying into her ruse. I stormed over and snatched the Barbie from Tumblrina's hand. No slapping in front of the kids. There you go. But OP's got some killer hand-eye coordination. I growled as she spun to face me. He said he doesn't want to play. And she began wailing, if I don't take these steps to open his closed little mind up, then he'll grow up to be an evil cis-white male. I boiled. Part of me was ashamed that I didn't catch that display on camera, but my main concern was just getting Petey out of that situation. As we stood, the kids interrupted our standoff and managed to diffuse a bit of tension. Petey's not a sissy. Miss Bluehair's so mean. Is it time for snack now? Always love interjections from the children. But I do want to say that I'm proud of you for not whipping out the camera. Like a lot of TikTok parents, and that's their first instinct. Oh, my child's gonna get hurt. Better film it.
Yeah, I got you. I got you on camera. You on candid camera now.
No, you need to go and help the child. That is our job as people that are larger than the child. OP says, I drilled holes into Tumblrina's face for a few seconds more, trying to telepathically transmit that I would end her existence before I let her negatively affect these kids. You can offer to play Barbies with a little boy. I won't have a meltdown about that. But trying to force anyone into a situation that they don't feel comfortable in isn't going to fly here. I turned back to the kids and said, it's snack time soon, but first, let's enjoy a little activity. Tumblrina interrupted, saying, I brought the snack today. It's in my van. Great. I'm going to feed the kids cigarettes, I suppose.
Young boys aren't supposed to smoke with cigarettes. It can make your lungs sick.
Yeah, I got a whole carton. Everybody gets 3, except I get 6, because obviously they're mine. Tumblrina, we're going to have a snack soon, but first, we are doing an activity, I repeated myself. The mud creature mumbled something about being ungrateful, and waddled out the door. Maybe she was getting snacks, maybe she was going home. I preferred the latter at this point. She was certainly more involved, but I wasn't sure that was a good thing after all. I preferred her uncomfortable and silent. Seems that we're past that point now. So true. And we can't ever go back. This relationship develops day by day whether you want it to or not. The only thing left to do is fling yourself out of the fucking airlock. I'm not doing this anymore. I sat all the kids down and had them draw pictures of their houses, parents, pets, toys, whatever else. I complimented their works of art and made sure that nobody was fighting over crayons. Normally I'd sit and doodle something with them, but today I was on edge. I paced like a prison guard. I peeked out the windows at the flypaper-covered van that belonged to our resident lard beast like I was on a military watch. She had a hand cart that I assumed she had taken out of the back of the van, and she was loading cardboard boxes onto it while puffing away on a cigarette. As the smoke drifted high toward the almost afternoon sun, I couldn't help but wonder what the hell she was up to, but I would find out soon enough. What sort of snack needs a hand cart? How much does she assume these children eat? It can't possibly be like vegetables or something like that, right? Hey, I brought all kids get a head of lettuce. They're children, not turtles, Tumblrina. The kids were grabbing more paper and continuing their masterpieces when Tumblrina slammed the door open. It was loud. Some of the kids began to cry. That scared me so bad. You ruined my art, Miss Blue Hair. I was gonna give that to my mom. These are the things that matter the most when you're a child. Now there's one line out of place. It's not even worth showing it to her. It'll never get hung up on the refrigerator now. She'll love it. Just give it to her anyways. Anyway, Tumblrina paid little attention to the chaos that she had just caused and wheeled her load of goodies into the kitchen area. Not able to contain my curiosity any longer, I followed once I settled the kids back down. The boxes read, Fruit Roll-Up, and from the count underneath the name, it seemed like each box contained enough high-fructose sugar sheets to keep those kids snacking for days. Almost 200 fruit roll-ups in each box, and she had at least 4 or 5 boxes. What the hell did we want with 1,000 fruit roll-ups? Do they still make those? This is like a blast from the past. I used to love fruit roll-ups when I was a kid. They got little pre-cut things in there, and you can pull it out and play with it before it gets all hairy, and then you eat it.
My friends and my fruit roll-ups. We're having fun when we can say, wow, we love our fruit roll-ups.
The hair doesn't make it better. The hair is just because you couldn't not play with it. It's a food and a toy all in one. Where did she even get all of these fruit roll-ups? I knew better than to ask outright, so I began with, "Oh, it's so nice of you to share your snacks with the kids." Tumblrina nodded, completely self-satisfied. "These are packed with so much more energy than those dinky animal crackers or vegetables. The kids will like these a lot better." They probably will. That doesn't mean that they should eat 1,000 of them, okay? Like, if there's 30 kids in the class, they're each eating 30 fruit roll-ups. I don't think that's good. Everybody's going home with diabetes. They probably will like them. My eyebrow raised as I asked the million-dollar question, but where did you get them all from? "Oh, don't worry. They were free. I got them from behind the grocery store," she proudly announced. Hey, dumpster diving. That's nice, but you probably don't feed people dumpster food. Like, you have to make sure they acknowledge that it's dumpster food before you feed it to them. That's just good manners. OP says, the wheels of my mind turned and clicked into place. And I whispered, are you trying to feed these kids expired fruit roll-ups from the dumpster? She laughed. I'd never do that. These were by the shipping dock. I shook my head. You stole 1,000 fruit roll-ups from an incoming shipment? Are you out of your mind? You need to bring them back. I'm sure they have cameras. You could get in a lot of trouble. You're bringing that trouble right to my doorstep. You must understand, OP. Sometimes to make a big heist, you gotta take a small hit. Couple years in jail for my 1,000 fruit roll-ups, no big deal. Like, I guess she tried to do something nice, but in the most horrible way possible. OP says, I was shocked, of course, but a flicker in the back of my mind told me that I should try and get that video footage. Like, from the grocery store? I'm pretty sure they're gonna hand it to the cops shortly. I needed to start recording audio, so I fiddled with my phone as she made her retort. Those capitalist scum won't miss it. Nobody even saw me take it. I parked my car down the street, and I took from the rich and gave to the poor. I'm like Robin Hood if you really think about it. I know I made the kids sad yesterday. I just wanted to make it up to them, and could you stop playing with your phone? I'm making a point here. I didn't catch the admission of guilt. Fiddlesticks. So I apologized and asked her to continue. She rambled on about social inequity and her right to pillage whatever she wanted in order to right the wrongs that some dead people committed centuries ago. Yeah, not really how any of that works. And then the Walmart's going to shut down. Everybody's going to lose their job. They're going to go, why do we have to live in a food desert? It's not economically viable to open a shop there, you see. Your pillaging only makes it worse. Anyway, it was stupid and asinine, and it wasn't the biting confession that I hoped to extract. I tried to lead the horse back to water, saying something like, so you stole these 5 boxes from the grocery store in order to fight oppression? And she answered, you haven't been listening at all. This is liberation. This is my moment of greatest triumph. I might go back tomorrow and Miss Science! One of the kids shrieked, and I rushed back to my duty. Is she going to go back to what a mad lad.
Absolute mad lad!
She's gonna get arrested for sure, you know? Thanks for the 1,000 fruit roll-ups, but I need 1,000 more! Crayons were inside of noses now, and I admonished myself for leaving the kids to go hog hunting. None of the audio I had was even usable. I plucked the now much greener crayon from a nostril and told the kids to get ready for snack time. Yeah, kids do some weird stuff. You gotta watch them at all times. My 2-year-old, I don't trust him for a second. But I do suspect it's difficult to watch that many kids, especially when you have a giant overgrown kid who's thieving from the local grocery store. Okay, so how about snack time? Tumblrina wandered out with a box, and I told her to put it back in her vehicle. We were not having the kids eat the evidence of her theft. She refused and asked the kids if they'd rather have goldfish crackers, bleh, or fruit roll-ups, yay! And the vote was nearly unanimous for fruit roll-ups. I sunk my head into my hands. She turned my own people against me with the power of sugar. I nodded in defeat and waved my hands as about 30 hands were filled with ill-gotten goods. While Tumblrina doled out the haul, I deleted the audio file that I had taken. If anyone asked me about this, I knew nothing about where these things came from. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah, that's some good old CYA. Cover your ass! Speaking of sticking, the fruit roll-ups were melted to hell and back. The plastic packaging no longer held sugar sheets. Instead, it oozed a red sludge. The kids didn't seem to care much. Neither did Tumblrina. They suckled the plastic and made grand exaltations about just how amazing this food product was. I cringed internally. I guess they were all getting their daily dose of microplastics today. It's fine. There's some already in there. What's a bit more? I'll admit to you right now, it was not the best situation to allow, but I was thrown off kilter by a new and somewhat improved Tumblrina, and the army of fickle children that she now seemed to have at her command. I sat there stunned as I lost control of the only thing that truly mattered to me. There was also the nose crayon from earlier. Maybe I just wasn't cut out to be in charge. I quickly realized that I was spiraling and that I'd need to push back against those ugly feelings of unworthiness. Hell yeah, you caught yourself, OP. That is a really big step, you know? Took me decades to master that one. While I might not be infallible, I'm certainly more fit to guide these children than the thieving racist do-nothing that menaces children with Barbie dolls. That's right, we menace people with Mr. Potato Heads like true people of culture. I stood up and made my announcement. That snack was a lot of sugar for little bodies, wasn't it? Okay, now we need to get outside and burn off some of this energy, right? The kids agreed and stood to line up in front of the door. Tumblrina saw her coup being derailed and offered the kids some more fruit roll-ups if they wanted to stay indoors. There was brief mention of not needing to conform to societal beauty standards, and the kids looked amongst each other, quite puzzled about what those words were supposed to mean. Petey spoke up first with an impish smile on his face. I don't want to stay indoors and eat too much sugar because I don't want to look like you. Damn, dude. Oh, Petey. The line of children erupted with laughter, and I tried to shush them to no avail. Tumblrina didn't look angry. She looked sad and broken. The ham beast had failed to win more than 10 minutes of the kids' respect with her great candy heist. Part of me felt bad, especially after her go-getter attitude this morning. She was clearly trying to connect, but the other part of me remembered the 2 days of high-tension screaming and arguments and broken or stolen things at my place of employment. The sanctity of the one place that I valued more than anywhere else had been violated, and even a million sheets of flavored corn syrup weren't about to make me forget it. I didn't want her to be my friend, or my coworker. She'd blown that possibility out the window like so many cigarettes. Damn, that's some good writing right there. But I did want to maintain civility and good manners for the sake of the kids. Peter, I spoke sternly, that's not a nice thing to say to Miss Blue Hair when she's trying to do something nice for us. You need to tell her that you're sorry for what you said. Petey stared at his feed and muttered his apology. Tumblrina accepted, but still had a look of deep sadness on her face. I nodded and let the kids outside, telling Tumblrina to get the remainder of those boxes back into her van. I didn't wait for confirmation. The kids set out to do their thing, but as it turned out, a lot of talk on the playground today was about Tumblrina. That snack was so nasty. She's still not very nice. She smells like my dad when he comes home from the bar. Yes, that's called cigarettes. You're getting a little secondhand from his clothes. You need to stay away from Daddy when he smells like that, okay? My kids know. I told the kids that they needed to act nicer about 20 times over the next hour or so. Tumblrina trudged to her van with the boxes and loaded them inside. The giggling renewed itself as soon as she appeared. Kids really can be so mean sometimes. Yeah, once you're out of their good graces, it's really hard to get back in, too. The blue-haired beast just sat in her van, catatonic. Not dissimilar to yesterday, only this time we were the root cause of her heartache. The day had started so well. I frowned as I considered my options. Part of me still felt pity, and then that pity dried up instantly as I saw her light a cigarette with the window down. My frown deepened, and my thoughts grew dark. Parked in the same spot as yesterday. I told her I would blast her with the hose. You got like an angel and a devil on your shoulder arguing it out right now. It would be mean to kick her while she's down. Do it! Spray her right in the face!
Nice job. You got my shirt wet.
I'm sort of with the devil on this one, sorry. My eyes shifted to the green rubber snake with the black plastic sprayer nozzle. It was dripping water already, almost begging me to follow through on my threat. See, the universe wants you to do this. The truth was, I didn't have the heart to do it. She was already broken today, and honestly broken long before we crossed paths. Jesus, ain't that the truth? But I wanted to believe that she could choose something better. Blasting her with water wouldn't help her along, so instead I took a short video on my phone. I panned from the kids to the smoke streaming from the flypaper van. It likely wasn't damning evidence as far as Big Boss was concerned, but it would be enough to shut the entire daycare down if it ended up in the wrong hands, like in the hands of some choice government officials. Was I willing to firebomb my entire career and set all of my little wards adrift to fend for themselves in the world? Probably not. But it's always good to have options. This is what we call insurance. I just wanted to have an ace in my pocket, and I'd decide what to do with it a bit later. OP's really out here playing a 4D chess game, you know? Once I took my video, I shuffled all the kids into the backyard away from the secondhand poison. Tumblrina stayed gone until it was almost time to head back inside, and coworker showed up. I told him to get the kids settled in for lunch while I went to fetch our flesh mountain from her combustion-driven hovel. As I approached, there was no smoke. I wondered if that meant she stopped breathing. I walked up to the driver's side window and peered in on the monstrosity. She was either dead or asleep. I looked closer, and I could see her chest rising and falling. Darn it, asleep. I don't know if it's just me, but this entire paragraph tickles me so. I reached in and I gave her a shake. Nap time isn't until after lunch. You got a job to do. Get up! Get up! She did stir a bit, but it was gonna take more than a gentle wake-up call. Dude, get the hose. This time for real. And OP says, the hose called out to me once again, but I resisted its siren song. Instead, I reached in and plucked the keys from the ignition. If you want these back, come inside and help with lunch, I stated as I headed back inside. Is this theft, manhandling the car keys? She's not gonna call the cops. Then you just flip Uno reverse and be like, she's got 1,000 stolen fruit roll-ups in her trunk. I expected Tumblrina to shout out after me, but she didn't. She was fast asleep. I was sure that she'd wake up as the afternoon sun baked and bubbled her behemoth behind, but I was sorely wrong about that. I caught coworker up on Tumblrina's new and semi-helpful change of heart. We ran through nap and more structured activities. For 3 or 4 hours, we were back to business as usual once again. Coworker really got the short end of the stick with his schedule. Ain't that the truth, dude? He probably doesn't even think she's that bad. Like, okay, she's absent a lot, but if she's as terrible as you say, why is that a problem? Eventually, it was time to head back outside for the final playtime before the parents started to arrive and pick up their kids. Coworker pointed to the van with his chin and said, someone should go check on her. 1, 2, 3, not it! I rolled my eyes and begged him to go instead of me because, again, I had dealt with her all morning. There was a back and forth where we joked about the coroner needing to bring a crane and cut the roof off the van to get her out before they buried her in a piano box. They need her buried 12 feet deep since she's about 6 feet wide. We laughed and made sure that the kids weren't paying attention to our mean girl moment. I'm sure they did. That's why they're mean to her too. They know you guys don't like her. That's how kids be. Also, as far as cutting the roof off the van and all that, don't bother. Just bury the whole van. It can't cost that much extra, okay? She's a behemoth woman. I was about to give in and go pitch the van keys through the window when suddenly, where are my fucking keys? Oh, seems like Sleeping Beauty is finally awake. The door was wrenched open as she repeated herself, wondering where her keys could be. I just love the phrasing there. As she stepped out, it looked like our mud monster had liquefied. She was sopping wet from head to toe. Her stringy hair hung damp and greasy as she stomped back toward the daycare. I was briefly shocked that a person so disheveled could somehow look even more disheveled than before. But I guess a scalding nap in a convection oven on wheels can have that effect on people. Yeah, she was catching up on some of that good sleep. But you can't sleep for too long when you're getting all sweaty like this. She's gonna have heat stroke or something. She hadn't even reached the gate when I pitched the keys back toward her vehicle. The action reminded me of a certain potato head. I yelled back, don't say bad words around the kids. Just go home and dry yourself off. Tumblrina let out an incoherent screech. I presume it's the Legbeard version of a neckbeard's ree. I stood strong against the auditory onslaught and told her that she had missed the entire workday. It was a brief, almost apology where she excused herself by reminding me that she'd been awake all night. And then she switched right back into righteous indignation and talked about how she didn't want to take part in the evils of capitalism anyway. Yeah, you don't get to excuse yourself. I was awake all night. Oh, you made poor choices with your life and somehow I have to bear the repercussions of it? Fuck you. How about? I looked to coworker, expecting a snarky retort on her statement about capitalism, but instead, he just shrugged at her and waved her away with his hand. Then leave. And don't come back. Short, succinct, not the burning comeback that I hoped to see, but it was effective. With one last enraged shriek, she grabbed her keys from the street, got in the van, and screeched her tires away from the curb. Well, good riddance to bad rubbish, as I say. Coworker and I had a laugh about how she looked like I had decided to turn the hose on her after all. and we both agreed that she probably wouldn't be coming back tomorrow. Surely she has some shame somewhere amongst all that prodigious girth, at least enough to know when to stay gone for good, right? We were horribly wrong about that, of course. Coworker and I reached out to Big Boss again. We knew we were finally making headway when Big Boss admitted maybe conflict resolution isn't in the cards here. Well, no shit. Day 3, that's how long it took ya? I guess Big Boss got other things going on, I don't know. Anyway, truth be told, Tumblrina wasn't even gonna make it until Friday, but it wouldn't be Big Boss or even myself that pulled the trigger. It was local law enforcement. I knew it, dude. She said she's gonna go back to the store. I knew it. She was smart enough to park her vehicle down the street, but you think they're not gonna check traffic cams and find out which car you got into, where you went? Big Brother's always watching, okay? It's much easier to just live an honest life. Sure, you gotta play capitalism some of the time, but the truth is, it can be a pretty fun game, especially if you're winning. Why don't you try to start winning? Anyway, OP says that is a story for another day. And so we conclude. I guess 1 or 2 more parts to go. Honestly, I was hoping for a lot more out of Tumblrina. Like 40-part Chris Trucker type of saga, but that's not always how it goes. Sometimes all you get is 3-4 parts, and you gotta be good with it. I do hope that OP will continue to write about, I don't know, anything at all. Just tell me about your day. The writing is really interesting. It's really likable, really enjoyable. I hope to see you around the channel for a long time to come, you know? Anyways, I hope you'll show your support for OP in the comments, also by liking, commenting, subscribing on the video. I'd appreciate all that. You can sign up on the Patreon or the YouTube memberships. Then you can be one of the cool kids. Join the Discord, have like a special name that's different from everybody else's, except the other people who support. And also you could join the Discord for free if you wanted to. It's fine. Whatever you want to do is fine, okay? Also, check out my 4th wall and buy something over there. Whatever you want to do, okay? Most importantly, I really do want to impress upon you, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it. And I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.